This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Welcome to another edition of Iconic Creators. I'm your host, Baxter Colburn. Today we've got a great interview for you, somebody that I've known for a couple of years now. And when we talk about creators, sometimes people think about content creators or photographers, videographers, people that are creating art. Well, I would argue that when it comes to the food side of art, there's nobody better in the Green Bay area than my guest today. It is a good friend of mine, Michaela Dietzen, the owner of Michaela Marie Sweets here in Green Bay. Michaela, I'm so excited that you're here today on the podcast. Welcome to Iconic
Thanks
Creators.
for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we were talking before we started. This is your first podcast you've ever done.
Yes.
Did you do any research ahead of time?
No, we're winging it.
I love it. I'm excited because we're here in your beautiful bakery. We're in the back room, right?
Yes, we're in the kitchen, behind the scenes.
Everything. I love it. For those that will watch back some of the clips from this show, you'll get to see that we're kind of here in the back room. But I am maybe one of the few people that have had an interesting perspective of your journey because I got to do some of the promotional video for you as you were getting ready to start.
Yeah.
A client of mine had asked me to shoot video for you to kind of help promote you as you started. So as an outsider, it's been really fun to watch your entire journey, but obviously internally, I'm sure you've gone through it all, obviously, but talk to the audience a little bit about how you got started and what it is that you do here.
Yeah, so I'll kind of work in reverse there. So what we do is basically all desserts, everything sweet. So cookies, cupcakes, bars, brownies, macarons, cream puffs, tarts, cakes.
Wow.
Weddings are a huge part of our business. So we don't do any breakfasty stuff, no breads, just all desserts. And I've been into baking since I was a little kid, and it's kind of a funny backstory. So the first time I ever stayed home alone, I was probably like 7 or 8. Do you remember staying home alone as a kid?
Yes, it was a big deal.
Yes, it was a huge deal, and I would get so nervous. Like when you're staying home alone at that age, like when the house creaks, like you're
every little thing,
every little noise, you freak out. So I was like, okay, I've got to turn the TV on. So I turned the TV on, and I'm starting to like flip through channels, and I was like, I need to find like a safe show that's like not going to freak me out.
Sure.
So I was like heading towards HGTV or something like that.
Very safe spot.
And, yes.
Food Network, any of those, right?
So I came across Cake Boss.
Oh,
and
great show.
TLC was having like a Cake Boss like marathon, and they were just playing episodes of Cake Boss, like old episodes, all day long. So my parents parents were out. I think they were furniture shopping. So it was my first day. It was like a Saturday. It was my first day staying home for like an extended period of time. And they got home at the end of the day and they were like, what did you do? And I was like, oh my gosh, I just sat on the couch and watched like 15 episodes of Cake Boss straight. And that's when the addiction started. So they like, I thought they would be like, what the heck, Michaela, why'd you sit and watch TV all day? But they like actually really embraced my like excitement over it. And my mom growing up would always get those magazines, like the Oprah magazine and Southern Living and stuff. And she would start to clip all of the cake recipes that she would find. And at the holidays, they would have them like decorated cute. Like she clipped one once and it had little fondant penguins on it. And so that's kind of where it started, is she would cut out all of these recipes and pictures of cakes that she would find in her magazines, and I would do the recipe and I would replicate the picture. So the very first cake I ever made, it was a round cake and it was made to look like a plate of spaghetti. So we did like little cake ball meatballs on top and like raspberry sauce for the spaghetti sauce, and it turned out really good. And my mom started posting the pictures on Facebook, and I started like taking orders at a super young age. So I did my cousin's wedding cake when I was 15. So that was like my first kind of like, whoa, I can like make a career out of this moment. And from that point on, I started researching culinary schools, and there weren't a ton in the area that really interested me. It's mostly tech schools around here, which there's nothing wrong with going that route, but I kind of wanted to go big or go home. So I ended up going to the Culinary Institute of America in New York. So I have a college degree in baking and pastry arts, which who even knew that was a thing, right? So
That's a great one to have.
Yeah, so that was a 2-year program. So I was in New York for a few years, and you learn everything from the basics of making muffins and chocolate chip cookies all the way up to the big tiered wedding cakes, and you do breads and chocolates and everything in between. So that was an amazing experience, and it kind of opened my eyes up to all the different paths you could take. You can go into the bakeries, you can go into the hotel industry, restaurants, just so many different routes. And I've always wanted to open a bakery, but I loved living in New York. I loved kind of being out on my own and the independence. So after I lived in New York for 2 years after I graduated, I moved to Chicago, and I lived there for a few years and worked in the hotel industry. I did an externship at my time in New York in a luxury hotel, and I fell in love with the hotel industry. So yeah, the pastry world in luxury hotels is fun because you're doing the desserts for the restaurants, so you get to see the restaurant aspect. You're doing desserts for the large like weddings, corporate events, stuff like that. So you get to do plated desserts, you get to do wedding cakes. Like you really get to see all of it. We were doing ice cream, homemade breads. So it was the whole realm of the baking industry wrapped up in one job, and I loved it. But then unfortunately COVID hit and hit the hotel industry really hard. So that was kind of my awakening moment of, okay, I've been doing this for a few years. What do I want to do now? Like I was laid off, as was the entire hotel staff. So we were all kind of like what's next? And so that's when I moved back to Green Bay and never looked back. I'm happy to be home. It's like kind of one of those things where you can't wait to leave, and then you get back and you're like, oh, it's like, this is an amazing place to live. So I spent a few years working at a different local bakery while I looked for a location. And here we are. Yeah.
You just celebrated 2 years, right?
Yeah, 2 years in October. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Does it feel like 2 years, or does it feel like 10 years?
A little bit of both. It, I swear it went in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Like it went so quick, but at the same time, like thinking back to when I first met you, that feels like a lifetime ago.
It really does, yeah.
Like a lot has happened in that time, and I think it's so easy to get caught up when you own a business and like the day-to-day grind, and it's kind of fun to like see you today and like take a step back and be like, whoa, like you and I both have come so far since then, like in the past 2 years.
Absolutely
so that's
true,
like really cool to like sit here and think about with you today, is like we've both grown a lot.
We have. No, that's so true. And it's funny you say that, right? Because I think about the person I was, or the business person I was 2 years ago, and where I am now. And it's just a completely different person, which you hope to be, right?
Yeah.
You hope to grow, a little bit every day, and to be 2 years removed from that is, I'm proud of both of us. Truly, right? Like I'm a huge fan of you and what you do, and to be able to see everything that you've done, to have been able to be a consumer of yours as well, right? We've done some stuff together before. My wife and I have taken a class from you before too. Like, so we've been able to experience you in a lot of different ways. Yeah. My favorite way that we're tied together, and I don't know how if you remember this or not, but you were the pivotal piece that helped me propose to my wife. Yes. And what I mean by that is that I came in a few days or a day before and bought a sleeve of macaroons or macarons, right? And I figured out that the ring box could fit inside of that. So I put the ring box inside there, kind of packaged it up nicely, and then we had a picnic dinner. And at the end, I was like, oh, I have a dessert. And so I pulled it out, and she opened it up, and the ring box is on the far side from her, so she pulled it out. She didn't see anything, and then until she got to the end, because there was all the desserts there, and that was the piece of it. So
I remember that very well, actually, because that was very pivotal for me too. And I don't know if you remember me telling you this when it happened, but okay, so I'm at the age where I'm 26. So everyone I went to high school with is starting their careers, they're having kids, they're getting married. It's like an exciting time of life for all of us, which I love seeing everyone thrive. But they're becoming doctors and teachers and nurses. And sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, I sit here and make cookies all day. You know what I mean? Like, am I making a difference? Is this an important job? And I remember when you told me about that, how you proposed to her. And I was like, that was my first moment of like, okay, like, this is such a cool thing to be a part of, right? Like, that's huge. You're never going to forget how you proposed to your wife. Ever. Like, being a part of people's weddings and first birthdays. I actually had a client when we first opened, and I did her daughter's first birthday cake, and I just thought it was a normal order. And she emailed me afterwards and was like, thank you so much for creating such a beautiful cake. She said, my daughter was born with a bunch of health problems, and we didn't know if she would make it to her first birthday or not. Oh, wow. And we promised ourselves that if she made it, we would throw her a huge, special, amazing birthday. Wow. And to know that I got to make that little girl's first birthday cake. Correct. And her birthday was actually in December, and she came in for her third birthday treat, and I literally almost cried when I saw her. So it's just really cool to be, like stories like that, or 100%. Yours. It's like, wow, what an honor to be a part of those moments of people's lives that they're never going to forget. So
I've talked about this before with other people, and I'm sure you'll back it up now. You've kind of already talked about it, but I learned, especially I feel like in 2024, that the moments that you get to share with people, right? Like, I help people tell their stories and capture important moments for them, that it is so much bigger than whatever video or photo that I'm taking, right? You said you're coming along with an experience, you're coming along with someone that is trying to build something or grow something, right? And to be a small piece in that whole journey is such an honor to me. And the amount of times where I've been like, this is so much bigger than what I'm physically doing in this moment, right? Like, to share in that with them is so special. Yeah,
like I said, I think we all get caught up in like, okay, I have to get 10 cakes done in the next 2 hours. And it's like, you forget that those are 10 really special occasions that those are going to. And people are going to have parties and celebrate with their family, and they're looking forward to that. And it's not just a cake, it's not just a video, it's really special to someone. 100%. And to be a part of that is really cool.
It is. I love that. And I love that's the, I would say, the intimacy of your industry, right?
Absolutely.
Like, we all love sweets, right? We all, in some capacity, we have a moment or memory, right? Like, I remember making a lot of different desserts with my family growing up, right? Like, that's a core memory for a lot of us, right? So you being in an industry that generally brings a lot of joy to people has also got to be a lot of fun, right? Like, absolutely. I don't know too many mad people that come in and get a cookie like, oh, I have to go get a cookie today. It's like, I get to go get a cookie. How awesome. Or a cake, right?
Or people come in and they'll be like, I'm having a really bad day. And to think that my business is where they think to come when they're having a bad day. Like,
turn it all around.
Yes. What a special feeling to know that they come to the business that I created to eat the treats that I came up with when they're having a bad day. Like, that's what makes them happy. And that's like, that makes me happy. And it's like, that's why I started doing this. And that's why I keep doing it. Correct, obviously, you know that owning a business has hard days.
Absolutely,
and when you hear moments like that, that's like what keeps you going.
Correct. I think that's so very well said. And it's true, right? There's always that one bad review or that one thing that maybe didn't go as planned that you're like, that's the one I think about. Even though you just had 100 other amazing things that people are singing your praises, you're like, that's great, guys.
You hyperfixate on the bad thing.
Correct.
I totally get it.
I can't imagine So this is something I talk about all the time also, is that I don't create physical things, right? Like I create virtual or, whatever like that. You can't physically touch the photos of the videos. You could print them out, whatever. But I'm not making something that people are going to have a big opinion on. Like everybody's chocolate chip cookie tastes different, right?
Food
like
is very subjective.
That is a wild thing to me, right? Like, so as you're creating these things, how much does that sit in your head of like, I hope because it's art.
Oh, I think about it all the time. Like it keeps me up at night, like constantly. Like we'll put out our Christmas menu and I'm like, what if no one orders? What if they hate it? And then Christmas rolls around and instead of enjoying my holiday, which I do, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope everyone's enjoying their desserts right now. Like that's what I think about all day.
Oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Yes.
Right? Like,
and yeah, it's like I know in my head that no matter what I do, everyone's not going to be happy with it. And I have to be okay with it. Yeah. Like some people think my frosting's too sweet. Some people won't think it's sweet enough. Some people will love it. You know what I mean? Like it's just everyone has their own tastes and preferences, which is fine. But as a business owner, it's scary because these are my recipes that I love and I've worked hard on. And to put yourself out there, like, I don't think people who don't own a business realize how scary that is. It's terrifying.
And your name is on the door, right?
Quite literally. Yes. As with yours, it's like, it comes back to us if someone's not happy. And it's scary.
It is, but it's so rewarding, obviously, all at the same time. I'm always fascinated by the creative process. So I am not one that I can look at a blank piece of paper and, draw a beautiful bird. My brain has never worked that way. It'll be a stick figure with, you won't know it's a bird, right? Like I can look at you and I can take a picture of you in my head and design it in a way I think it's going to look really nice or shoot your products or whatever, right? I see it that way. But for the people that create something out of nothing, right? Like you baking a cake and like you're talking about your spaghetti scene, other amazing pieces that you've made. How does your brain work in that way? How do you see that? Like, what are the steps that can you smell it before you make it? Like, I'm always fascinated by the creative process for so many different people.
Yeah. So I think for me, it started out as a kid copying, right?
Yes.
Like I see this picture in a magazine, I'm going to replicate it. And still today, sometimes people will send me a picture and be like, this is the cake I want. And then I'm like, okay, well, it takes the fun out of it for me, right? Because it's not as creative, but I totally understand, like if they like it, they like it.
Of course.
But I like it when people give me multiple images and they say, okay, I like this piece of this cake, I like this piece of this cake. And we can create a unique cake out of all of that. And then I get to find a way to take 5 different elements and make it flow and look cohesive and pretty in one thing. Or sometimes people will be like, I like clean, simple, and I want some pink and gold on it. And then I get to have fun with it. Ooh. And I think over the years, I've just started to develop my own style, right? I think that like everyone in the creative world probably has their own style that they start to develop. And I think that it shows in our pictures on Instagram and in what we make in store and stuff. I always just try to make everything as pretty as possible and tastes good too. It's hard to find something that both tastes good and looks pretty. So I think you eat it with your eyes first, right? So I'm constantly trying to think of how can I make this more visually appealing to people.
Interesting.
But yeah, I'm constantly scrolling through Pinterest and Instagram and looking at what other people have done.
Yeah.
I think that as a creative you have to, right? You're not copying them, but it's like cool to see what other people are incorporating into their work and taking those ideas and turning that into something unique and that you can put your own twist on.
Correct.
So
do you know what your style is? Because I feel like I've had people that have told me like, oh, I love your style. I'm like, what is my style? Like, I don't.
Sometimes I question it
I have a hard time,
And I feel like it kind of ebbs and flows and changes, right?
So I would say clean.
I was just going to say, I think clean and simple and minimalist.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes less is more. And I think sometimes the more people add to things, especially cakes, I feel like you lose like the technique and the I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Like, I think that the simpler the cake, the more your skills shine through, right?
Yeah. Like you can hide a lot under a lot of frosting.
Exactly. If you throw a bunch of fake flowers on a cake, you can hide all the air bubbles in the frosting 100%. Or the cracks or whatever you might be trying to cover up.
Yes.
So I really try to keep it simple and show my talent and the work that I've put into creating thousands of cakes over the years. It's taken a lot of practice, and I feel like that skill continues to develop. And every year my wedding cakes, I feel like, get a little bit better, and then you can kind of adjust your prices accordingly as you get more practice. We did a really fun wedding cake over the summer where the bride, her whole theme was like blue florals. Ooh. And she wanted her whole 3-tiered cake painted in blue florals. So she sent me pictures of her fabric and her invites, and she sends me like not exactly cakes, but different parts that I can incorporate. Exactly.
Piece together.
So we brought the cake, and I was like, wow, it looks perfect with all her, with the tablecloths and with her florals and stuff. So it's cool to see it all come together in the end when you get to see elements of it. But yeah, I think it's just incorporating as much as the client can provide you with and putting your own twist on it.
I'm always curious about this. I am really bad at this, but do you have moments when you've delivered the wedding cake or somebody picks up the item where you step back and you're like, I get to do this on a daily basis? Or are you, because I'm very much like you were saying before, like, hey, we got 10 cakes today, I got 10 videos today, like, got to shoot this, got to get here, like, and you forget the impact. We kind of talked about it earlier, but like, do you allow yourself to step back sometimes and be like, I get to do this, or I did that? Like, this is so cool.
Yeah, I feel it the most when I do wedding deliveries, and you see...
You're kind of a rock star when you walk in, right? You got the wedding cake, like that is a big deal.
It's exciting, and usually there's not many people around. Usually it's just like a few caterers or the wedding planner or the florist, and you're kind of alone in this big banquet room or venue, and you're like, wow, someone is like about to have the most important night of their life.
And here you are, a part of it.
I got to make it. And then you get the pictures back and you're like, wow, like they're gonna look back on these for the rest of their life, and like that's my work right there.
Absolutely.
And it's really cool. So that's when I feel those moments the most, when you're kind of alone and you step back and you're like, whoa, I just made this huge wedding cake, drove it across town without anything happening to it. That's terrifying. Set it up and it looks great. And that's always a good feeling.
Talk to me about something, and if you can get as in-depth or as minimal as you want, but something that you would set yourself as a goal in 2024 that you hit that maybe only you would know about. Like, was there a personal goal of yours, or maybe there was some, maybe it was more widespread, but something that you did that you've looked back now a little bit, if you've allowed yourself that time to be like, yeah, I did that. Like, that was a big goal and we got that.
I really went out of my comfort zone with weddings last year. The first year that we were open, I kind of stuck to the basics, like a lot of dessert bars, a lot of like 1-tier basic cutting cakes. And wedding cakes are scary. They're someone's, like we just said, it's the biggest part of their life pretty much right there. That's their biggest day. And tiered wedding cakes are very scary.
Sounds terrifying.
So the painted one, I lost so much sleep over that. I loved how it turned out, but I was like, okay, I was practicing on cakes for months leading up to it, like just trying to like be like, okay, I can do this.
Yes.
I'm capable of it, and I'm going to do it. Like, right? Like that manifestation of like,
we got this.
Stay calm, like you 100%. Can do it. And I took one this summer that terrified me. It was a 3-tiered cake that I had to drive all the way up to Door County.
Oh my Lord.
And in the middle of summer, and it's like, okay, I'm working with
how do you transport
butter,
that? I've got a lot of questions about that.
So when you do tiered cakes, there's a lot of structural pieces inside the cake. So there's dowels holding it all together. There's cardboard in between tiers. So
you're transporting it set.
Yeah.
You're not transporting it individually.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm literally
have you
driving.
Thought about individual piece transfer?
I have. And so the problem with that is the cake starts to cool down when you get to the venue, right? Like an hour-long drive, that cake is no longer firm out of the fridge, so the butter from the frosting has softened. So then if you go to stack it, all that frosting is super soft. It's not going to be as clean, and it's not going to look as good as if you stacked it cold. So I'm confident in I don't want to jinx this, knock on wood. I'm very confident in my structural.
How you build.
Yes. So I drove all the way up to Door County with it, brought it all the way upstairs to the venue, and it was completely fine. And that was like a really good like feeling of like, okay, I'm capable, I can do it.
Absolutely.
I made it up to Door County. So I've been stepping out of my comfort zone a lot more, booking this year's weddings too, because now I'm like, okay, I accomplished it in 2024. I can do it in 2025, and I can go even bigger now. Like I set my goal of like having a few crazy cakes in 2023 or 2024, and now now I'm like, let's keep
Keep it going,
the momentum going. It's fun. It's cool to be creative and unique and not have the same wedding cake every weekend.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the creative process from a social media perspective. You have a beautiful social media,
Thank
and you
you.
talk about it, right? Like anytime I look through, I'm like, and I'm hungry. And I'm hungry. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like I already have my wife's order for you before I leave, before what I need to get. But talk to me about like from a promotional perspective, right? Like, because I think Instagram was made for the food creative, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to look at something, they call it that food porn, right?
Yeah.
Like that fun, just beautiful imagery of like, I'm looking at some of your Christmas stuff, like just stunning, right? Like immediately I'm like, I need it. I don't even know what it is, but I need it. Like, it looks beautiful, right? Like talk to me about how you go about promoting your business or promoting the items that you do. And do you prefer photo versus video? Like what is it that you guys do?
So I'm glad you said we have a good social media, because Keegan, my sister, she works here at the bakery with me. I think most people know that, but my sister and I run the bakery together. We were talking about our goals for 2025, and one of our goals was to be better at social media.
Okay.
So I'm glad that you think we're already doing a good job.
Yes.
But I actually can't take a ton of credit for it. That's pretty much all Keegan, actually.
Okay.
Keegan went to NWTC for photography.
Oh, okay.
So she is great behind the camera. I basically give her my product, and
it's obvious.
Yeah, she does an amazing job. So I'm really lucky to have her. I tend to help her style everything, and then she just clicks away with her camera. So I think our favorite thing to photograph as you're looking at our Christmas menu is all our holiday menus. So I try to like make the backgrounds fun, and like we'll do it like in front of the Christmas tree, and then you have the twinkling lights in the background, and we'll have like the ornaments on the table and stuff. So really trying to like emphasize the season or the holiday that we're taking pictures of, and then just trying to
and the Halloween stuff.
Thank you. Trying to like keep people up to date with any specials we have in the store, like our monthly menu and stuff. It's crazy how we'll post one picture and it'll bring so many people in. And sometimes I forget how strong of an effect that social media can have on a consumer, right? Like 100%. That's a quick way to advertise your product, and it almost always brings results very quickly. So one of our goals for 2025 is to get a little more into video, showing the reels, the behind the scenes, maybe some cake decorating videos, some wedding deliveries and setups. I think people love to see like the process of what we're doing, especially because this is such a unique job. Like a lot of people are infatuated with like cake decorating and the wedding industry, and we have really cool stuff going on, and we need to do a better job of like capturing it. And
that is the hard part when you're in it, right? You're just like, okay, like you're telling me I have to make this cake, and I also need to have it recorded, and I need to put like, there's a lot that goes into it.
It is. Yeah. We have our to-do list in the morning, and we come in and we knock it out. And that's kind of, we need to take a step back and be like, okay, what would people like to see? So that's definitely one of our goals for this year, is to get a little better with showcasing all the fun stuff we do.
It's a hard area not to show, right? Like it's so beautiful. And that's what you guys do. I'm really curious about this. My wife and I just finished watching the holiday edition of Visits Cake. I don't know if you watched it or not as well, but it's just, that alone is such a wild concept of what those cake artists are doing, right? Like talk to me about, would something like that ever interest you, doing anything like that? Doing a show? Yeah.
I fear I'm too competitive, and if I didn't win, it would really hit my ego, which I probably shouldn't say.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
But I don't know. So when I first opened the bakery, my immediate reaction would have been never, absolutely not. I was so camera shy. I am a huge introvert, and I
would not guess it. I know you, and I know that about you, but like externally, you do such a nice job.
Thank you. I've come a long way since opening, because you kind of, as a business owner, right, you have to be. My name is on the door. I am the business.
Correct.
So I've gotten so much better. I've been on the news so many times. I was just on the news 2 days ago. So it's like doing podcasts, really trying to put myself out there and do things that like 3 years ago, you couldn't have paid me to do a podcast. Like, right? Like it's scary, like telling people your story and like opening up, and so that's another one of my 2025 goals, is to continue to put myself out there and like meet new people and do things that I would be scared to do. So maybe in 5 years I'd be ready for a show or something. But I actually have people that I've worked with and went to school with that have done stuff like that. I went to school with a few people that were on Hell's Kitchen. And then Food Network just did a Harry Potter
Yes,
baking competition.
that was so cool.
One of my chefs from my externship was one of the competitors on that.
my
So
gosh.
yeah, so I know a few people that have done it.
You
and
got the ins.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool someday, but I'm worried if I lost, I would take it a little too hard.
No, I know that is very fair, and you have to. It is such a vulnerable and public facing thing, right, to do. I'm always curious. I ask this question to everybody I interview. When you're not doing what you do, what do you do to take care of yourself?
Oh, okay. I'm a big bath person.
Okay.
I love a good bubble bath,
Yes.
and I
do too.
yeah, it's so relaxing. I get made fun of a lot for how much I read. I can knock a book out in a day.
Really?
So like my relaxing thing, like I go home and I shower immediately and put on my PJs. I don't care that it's 5:30. I'm in my pajamas.
Absolutely.
And I eat dinner and I read a book, and that's like my happy thing is books. So I'm constantly at the library, and I've always got a stack of books a mile high. I think I got through 55 last year.
Oh,
so
my word.
like one a week, which is pretty good. And yeah, that's kind of how I decompress and take my mind off of the bakery, is to kind of dive into a good book.
Dive into that way.
Yeah.
I'm really curious too. We're wrapping up here in just a moment. I remember growing up, my cousin is a phenomenal photographer, and she would always have this saying, and we kind of made fun of her for a little bit, but I get it now doing what she does, but she would look at somebody else's work or like a national campaign, and she would always be like, I could shoot that.
Yeah.
How often do you look at something that somebody else has made and you're like, I could make that?
There are a lot of times I do that, but then I also see stuff where I'm like, wow, I don't know if I'm that talented, right?
Like how in the world did they do that?
There are, I think we're kind of sheltered in Green Bay here a little bit, right? It's kind of like a small town, and we all kind of know the businesses that are around. But like living in New York and Chicago, there are some, like I think I'm fairly talented, but I have nothing compared to some people. And like good for them. I'm sure they have a lot of practice and time and commitment put into their craft and their skill. And I think that more often than I think, oh, I could do that. I think, wow, I wish I could do that. And that's okay. That's something to strive to continue to get better, right? But
and it's not a cocky thing, it's a confidence thing, right? Like you have to have confidence, especially in what you do, to be like, I know I can make that.
To put yourself out there to do it. Yeah. So yeah, social media is a crazy thing, like all the things that you see other people are doing, and that comparison game is kind of hard sometimes when you get in your head about wow, all these people are doing some really cool things.
I love it. Last question before I let you run. It's kind of a two-parter. Where is your business in 5 years?
Yeah.
And will we ever see a second location?
Okay, 5 years. Probably still in this location. I love it here. I love having Lambeau so close. I love having, I don't know, I'm excited about everything that Ashwaubenon has. We have some fun new products that we're working on. Hopefully some classes. We were kind of talking about this before we started the podcast.
So
I did a class with you and Rachel. I don't typically offer classes. I just kind of do them for people I know.
Much fun. Highly recommend.
We did a private macaron class with you guys, and that was really fun. So hopefully we can kind of enter that realm someday. As far as the second location, at this point in my career, I have zero interest in a second location.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
I think baking is one of those things where it's such a craft and it's such a skill that I don't know if it's my baby. I don't know if I'm ready to like trust like a whole group of people to run a location where I can't be there all the time.
That makes sense.
My parents both own businesses, so that's a lot of where my entrepreneurship drive kind of comes from. And my dad always says, you know, some days, Michaela, I don't even want one location, much less two. And I feel that too. So we'll see where it takes me. But as of now, no. I'd like to own a building someday and have, you know, like make it my own, right? But I mean, that's years and years down the road. So we'll see where it all takes us.
You have done so much in a short period of time, and I mentioned this before. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
For what that's worth, and I'm so excited to continue to cheer you on. And I share every time anyone's like, "Oh, I need." I'm like, "Go here."
Well, I appreciate
You've got to go
it.
here.
Thank you.
Incredible. You're such a joy to be around.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate just what you do for this community.
Oh, thank you. Well, you've done a lot for me too with your videos.
My pleasure. It's been a fun. What is the best way for people to get a hold of you or find the work that you do or come in and see where you're at?
Yeah, so our social media is just Michaela Marie Sweets on Instagram and Facebook. And then we are on Holmgren Way, so 2160 Holmgren Way, right across the street from Nakashima's by the Rockers Baseball Stadium. And then our website is just www.MichaelaMarieSweets.com.
Fantastic. Michaela Dietzen, thank you very much for being on Iconic Creators. I'm thrilled, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime soon.
Yes, I would love to. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you, the listener, for tuning in. As a reminder, you can find the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. New episodes every single week, so please make sure to subscribe so you never miss one. A big thank you to Michaela for joining, and for you, the listener, we will see you next time for another episode of Iconic Creators. Have a great one.